and you're noticing more hair on your pillow in the shower drain, or your hair is getting thinner every year, what if the problem is not aging, not genetics, and not shampoo? What if your body is quietly missing a few key nutrients that hair follicles absolutely depend on? Today, I'm going to show you the secret supplements that can help slow hair fall and support thicker, stronger hair naturally. And no, this is not about quick fixes. This is about giving your body what it's been asking for. When most women hear the word biotin, they immediately think, that's all I need for my hair. But here's the part that almost no one talks about. Biotin does not work in isolation. Hair growth is a high energy, high turnover process, and biotin is only one small piece of a much larger biochemical system. If you're over 60 and relying on biotin alone, you may be missing the real reason your hair continues to thin despite taking supplements. Hair follicles are some of the fastest dividing cells in the body. That means they require a constant supply of nutrients that support cell division, oxygen delivery, and energy production. This is where the entire B vitamin family comes in. Vitamins like B1, B2, B3, B5, B6, folate, and B12 work together like a team. If even one of them is low, the whole system slows down. The follicle doesn't shut off completely, it just becomes weaker, thinner, and more fragile over time. As we age, one major issue appears: reduced stomach acid. Lower stomach acid makes it harder to absorb B vitamins, especially B12. Many women over 60 are unknowingly deficient even if their diet looks healthy. Without adequate B12 and folate, the body struggles to create new cells efficiently. Hair growth slows, strands become finer, and shedding increases. This is not sudden hair loss, it's gradual thinning that feels irreversible, but it's not. Another overlooked factor is how B vitamins support the nervous system and blood flow to the scalp. B1 and B6 play a role in nerve signaling and circulation. When these are low, the scalp receives weaker signals and reduced nutrient delivery. Hair follicles respond to this by shrinking. Thinner follicles produce thinner hair. This is why some women notice their ponytail getting smaller every year, even without obvious hair fall. There's also the issue of stress, which becomes more impactful with age. Chronic stress rapidly depletes B vitamins, especially B5 and B6. Stress pushes hair follicles into the shedding phase faster. You may not feel stressed, but your nervous system may be under constant low-grade pressure. Supporting the full B vitamin spectrum helps stabilize the stress response and protects hair follicles from being sacrificed. Another critical point is keratin production. Hair is made of keratin, and keratin synthesis depends on multiple B vitamins working together. Biotin supports keratin structure, but without B2 and B3, the enzymes involved in keratin formation slow down. The result is hair that grows, but breaks easily, looks dull, and never reaches its full thickness. Many women also experience changes in appetite and digestion as they age. Smaller meals and reduced protein intake further limit B vitamin availability. Even if you're eating well, absorption may still be compromised. This is why a balanced B complex is often more effective than high-dose biotin alone. Balance matters more than megadoses. Here's something important to understand: hair loss is rarely caused by a single deficiency. It's usually a pattern of small deficiencies adding up over time. The body prioritizes survival over appearance. When B vitamins are limited, the brain and heart get first access. Hair gets what's left, if anything. Restore the supply, and the body can afford to invest in hair again. When the full B vitamin system is supported, women often notice less shedding first, then improved texture, and eventually better density. This doesn't happen overnight, but it follows a predictable biological process. Hair follicles respond when their energy, circulation, and building materials are restored. Aging doesn't turn hair follicles off permanently. Deficiencies do. If thinning hair has been quietly progressing despite biotin, it's time to look deeper. Hair health reflects what's happening internally, and B vitamins are one of the most foundational signals your follicles respond to. When the system is supported correctly, the scalp environment changes and hair has a chance to grow stronger again. One of the most overlooked reasons hair becomes thin and fragile after the age of 60 is a quiet decline in usable protein. Hair is not a vitamin-based structure. It is a protein-based fiber, and without adequate building blocks, no supplement can force it to grow thicker. This is where collagen peptides play a critical role. Collagen is not just a beauty trend, it is a structural protein that directly influences the strength, elasticity, and diameter of each hair strand. With age, the body produces less collagen naturally. At the same time, digestion becomes less efficient, especially when it comes to breaking down dense proteins like meat. This creates a double problem: lower production and lower absorption. The hair follicle feels this immediately. When protein availability drops, the follicle shifts into conservation mode. Hair continues to grow, but it grows thinner, weaker, and slower. Many women assume this is simply aging, but biologically, it's a resource issue. Collagen peptides are pre-digested proteins, which means they require minimal effort from the digestive system. This is especially important for women over 60 who may experience low stomach acid, slower enzyme activity, or sensitivity to heavy meals. When collagen peptides are consumed, they provide specific amino acids such as glycine, proline, and hydroxyproline, which are essential for maintaining the structural integrity of hair. These amino acids help support the internal scaffolding that gives hair its thickness and resilience. Another critical point is how collagen influences the scalp environment. The scalp is skin, and skin health directly affects hair growth quality. Collagen supports the dermal layer of the scalp, improving firmness, hydration, and circulation. A healthier scalp creates a better foundation for hair follicles to anchor properly. When the scalp becomes thin and less elastic, follicles lose support and hair appears sparse even if follicles are still active. There is also a strong connection between collagen and blood vessel support. Collagen contributes to the structure of capillaries that supply oxygen and nutrients to hair follicles. As collagen declines, microcirculation weakens. Hair follicles may still be alive, but they receive less nourishment. This leads to shorter growth cycles and increased shedding. Supporting collagen intake helps reinforce these tiny blood vessels, improving nutrient delivery at the follicle level. Collagen does not act alone. Its effectiveness depends on adequate vitamin C, which helps stabilize collagen formation in the body. Without sufficient vitamin C, collagen synthesis becomes inefficient. This is why some women take collagen but see minimal results. The body cannot fully utilize it without the proper cofactors. When these elements are present, collagen becomes a powerful internal support system rather than just another supplement. Another factor that makes collagen particularly valuable after 60 is its role in reducing hair breakage rather than simply stimulating growth. Many women focus only on regrowth, but much of the thinning they see is due to strands breaking along the shaft. Collagen improves tensile strength, helping hair withstand brushing, washing, and environmental stress. Hair that breaks less naturally appears thicker over time, even without dramatic new growth. Hormonal changes also play a role. Estrogen helps maintain collagen levels, and as estrogen declines with age, collagen loss accelerates. This affects not just skin and joints, but hair quality as well. Supporting collagen intake helps counterbalance this decline and provides the follicle with structural stability during hormonal shifts. What's important to understand is that collagen works gradually and systemically. It doesn't force hair to grow unnaturally fast. Instead, it improves the internal conditions that allow hair to grow to its genetic potential. Women who are consistent often notice changes in texture first, then strength, and finally improved fullness. This progression reflects a biological rebuilding process, not a cosmetic illusion. When hair becomes thin with age, it's rarely because follicles are gone. In most cases, they are under-supported. Collagen peptides help restore that support by supplying the raw materials hair has been missing. When the body senses that resources are sufficient again, it reallocates them back to hair growth. This is how thickness is rebuilt from the inside out. Zinc is one of those trace minerals that rarely gets attention, yet its impact on hair biology is profound. Hair follicles are highly sensitive to zinc availability because zinc is involved in cell replication, protein synthesis, and tissue repair. When zinc levels decline, hair follicles are among the first tissues to show signs of stress. The result is not sudden baldness, but a gradual increase in shedding, slower regrowth, and hair that appears finer with each growth cycle. As women age, zinc deficiency becomes more common for several reasons. Appetite changes, reduced intake of zinc-rich foods, and declining digestive efficiency all play a role. In addition, zinc absorption competes with other minerals such as iron and calcium. Even when zinc intake seems adequate on paper, the body may not be utilizing it efficiently. This creates a functional deficiency where blood levels appear borderline, yet tissues like the scalp are not receiving enough. Zinc plays a critical role in regulating the hair growth cycle. Each follicle moves through phases of growth, rest, and shedding. Zinc helps maintain the follicle in the growth phase longer. When zinc is low, follicles are more likely to exit growth prematurely and enter the shedding phase. This is why women often notice increased hair fall without visible regrowth. The follicle isn't dead, it's simply not receiving the signal to stay active. Another important function of zinc is its involvement in DNA transcription and enzyme activation. Hair follicle cells divide rapidly, and without zinc, this process becomes inefficient. The follicle produces weaker hair shafts that break easily or fail to fully mature. Over time, repeated cycles of weakened growth lead to visible thinning, even if overall hair count has not dramatically changed. Zinc also supports the oil producing glands in the scalp. These glands help maintain scalp hydration and protect hair shafts. When zinc is insufficient, scalp oil production becomes imbalanced. The scalp may feel dry, itchy, or irritated, creating an unfavorable environment for hair growth. Inflammation at the scalp level further disrupts follicle function and contributes to shedding. Immune regulation is another key role of zinc. Hair follicles are immune, privileged sites, meaning they rely on a controlled immune environment to function properly. Zinc helps regulate inflammatory responses. Without it, low-grade inflammation can develop around hair follicles. This inflammation does not always cause redness or pain, but it subtly interferes with growth signals and weakens the follicle's ability to produce thick hair. Hormonal balance is also influenced by zinc. Zinc plays a role in regulating androgens, hormones that can contribute to hair thinning when unbalanced. While this is often discussed in younger women, it remains relevant after 60. Subtle shifts in hormone sensitivity can make hair follicles more vulnerable. Adequate zinc helps buffer these effects and maintain a healthier hormonal environment for hair growth. One of the most important aspects of zinc is that it works behind the scenes. You don't feel zinc working, and deficiencies develop slowly. Hair loss related to zinc is often mistaken for normal aging, but when zinc levels are supported, many women notice a reduction in shedding within weeks, followed by improved regrowth quality over time. This response reflects restored cellular communication rather than forced stimulation. It's also important to recognize that excessive zinc can interfere with copper balance, which is why appropriate dosing matters. Hair health depends on balance, not extremes. When zinc is provided in proper amounts, it supports the intricate processes that keep follicles productive and resilient. Hair thinning after 60 is rarely about a single dramatic cause. It's about cumulative stress on the follicle. Zinc is one of the key minerals that helps follicles resist that stress. When the body has enough zinc, hair follicles receive clear signals to grow, repair, and sustain themselves. Without it, they gradually retreat. Restoring zinc availability helps bring those signals back online and allows hair to regain strength and density over time. Vitamin D plays a unique and often misunderstood role in hair health, especially in women over the age of 60. Unlike many nutrients that support hair indirectly, vitamin D interacts directly with receptors located inside the hair follicle. These receptors help regulate whether a follicle remains active or becomes dormant. When vitamin D levels decline, the follicle does not necessarily fall out, but it becomes inactive, producing weaker hair or stopping growth altogether. As women age, vitamin D deficiency becomes increasingly common. Reduced sun exposure, changes in skin's ability to synthesize vitamin D, and dietary limitations all contribute. Even women living in sunny regions often have low vitamin D levels because aging skin produces less vitamin D from the same amount of sunlight. This silent deficiency can persist for years without obvious symptoms, while hair gradually becomes thinner and less responsive. Vitamin D plays a critical role in initiating the growth phase of the hair cycle. When levels are adequate, follicles receive the signal to enter and remain in the active growth stage. When vitamin D is insufficient, follicles are more likely to remain stuck in a resting state. This leads to a noticeable reduction in hair density over time, not because hair is falling out faster, because new hair is not replacing what is shed. Another important aspect of vitamin D is its role in immune regulation at the scalp level. Hair follicles rely on a balanced immune environment to function properly. Vitamin D helps modulate immune responses and reduce unnecessary inflammation. Without it, low-grade inflammation can develop around hair follicles, disrupting growth signals. This inflammation often goes unnoticed, but gradually weakens follicle activity and contributes to thinning. Vitamin D also supports calcium regulation within cells. Calcium signaling is involved in keratinocyte differentiation, a process essential for forming strong hair shafts. When vitamin D is low, calcium metabolism within the follicle becomes inefficient. Hair that does grow may be brittle, fragile, and prone to breakage. This further contributes to the appearance of thinning, even when hair count remains relatively stable. Hormonal interactions further highlight the importance of vitamin D. Vitamin D influences insulin sensitivity and estrogen balance, both of which affect hair growth. After 60, subtle hormonal shifts can make hair follicles more sensitive to stress and nutrient deficiencies. Adequate vitamin D helps stabilize these hormonal interactions, creating a more supportive internal environment for hair maintenance. There is also a connection between vitamin D and blood flow. Vitamin D supports vascular health and helps maintain proper circulation to peripheral tissues, including the scalp. Hair follicles depend on consistent nutrient and oxygen delivery. When circulation is compromised, follicles receive fewer resources. Vitamin D contributes to maintaining this microcirculation, supporting sustained follicle activity. Many women are surprised to learn that vitamin D deficiency can mimic genetic hair loss patterns. Diffuse thinning, widening parts, and overall loss of volume are common signs. Because these changes occur gradually, they are often dismissed as inevitable aging. However, when vitamin D levels are corrected, follicles that were dormant, not destroyed, can regain activity. Consistency is crucial when addressing vitamin D status. Hair follicles respond slowly because hair growth is a long-term biological process. Improvements typically follow a sequence: reduced shedding, improved texture, and gradual increases in density. This reflects restored follicle signaling rather than artificial stimulation. Vitamin D does not act as a stimulant. It acts as a permission signal. It tells the follicle that conditions are safe and resources are sufficient for growth. Without that signal, the follicle conserves energy. Restoring vitamin D helps establish that communication between the body and the hair follicle. In women over 60, thinning hair is often a reflection of accumulated deficiencies rather than irreversible loss. Vitamin D stands out because of its direct influence on follicle activation. When levels are optimized, hair follicles that were quietly inactive can begin to function again, allowing hair to regain strength, resilience, and visible fullness over time. Iron plays a deeply underestimated role in hair health, particularly in women over 60, because hair follicles are extremely sensitive to oxygen availability. Iron is essential for forming hemoglobin, the molecule that carries oxygen in red blood cells. When iron levels decline, oxygen delivery to non-essential tissues is reduced first, and hair follicles fall squarely into that category. The body makes a calculated decision, survival before appearance. Hair growth slows quietly, strands become finer, and shedding increases long before obvious fatigue or anemia appears. What makes iron-related hair thinning so challenging is that it often occurs without dramatic lab abnormalities. A woman can have normal hemoglobin and still have low iron stores measured as ferritin. Ferritin acts like a storage tank. When ferritin drops, the body begins rationing iron. Hair follicles sense this shortage almost immediately. They shorten the growth phase and push hair into shedding earlier than it should. This creates the illusion that hair is falling out excessively when in reality it is failing to stay in growth long enough to maintain density. After 60, several factors converge to increase iron vulnerability. Appetite changes, smaller meals, reduced intake of red meat, and digestive inefficiency all contribute. Stomach acid tends to decline with age, and iron absorption depends heavily on adequate acidity. Even when iron is present in the diet, it may pass through the digestive tract without being fully absorbed. Over time, this slow deficit accumulates, and hair follicles reflect the shortage before other tissues raise alarms. Iron is also involved in mitochondrial function, the energy-producing centers of cells. Hair follicle cells divide rapidly and require a steady supply of energy. When iron is low, mitochondrial activity becomes less efficient. The follicle enters an energy-saving mode, producing thinner hair shafts or temporarily suspending growth altogether. This is why hair may appear weaker, slower growing, and unable to regain previous thickness. Another overlooked aspect is the relationship between iron and thyroid function. Iron is necessary for proper thyroid hormone conversion. Suboptimal thyroid activity, even within a normal range, can contribute to hair thinning. In women over 60, subtle thyroid inefficiency combined with low iron creates a compounding effect. Hair follicles receive weaker metabolic signals, leading to diminished growth quality over time. Inflammation further complicates iron availability. Chronic low-grade inflammation, which becomes more common with age, can trap iron in storage and prevent it from being used effectively. This condition, sometimes referred to as functional iron deficiency, means iron is present in the body but unavailable where it's needed. Hair follicles respond as if iron is deficient, reducing growth and increasing shedding. This is why addressing overall metabolic health matters when supporting iron status. There is also an important balance issue. Iron is not a supplement that should be taken casually. Excess iron can promote oxidative stress and interfere with other minerals. Hair health does not improve with excess, it improves with adequacy. The goal is to restore sufficient oxygen delivery and cellular energy without overwhelming the system. This is particularly important for women past menopause whose iron needs differ significantly from younger women. Hair thinning related to iron often follows a recognizable pattern. Diffuse shedding, reduced ponytail volume, and slow regrowth are common signs. Many women notice that hair seems to stop responding to other supportive measures. Protein intake, collagen, and vitamins may help texture, but thickness fails to return. In these cases, iron availability is often the missing link that prevents the follicle from fully re-entering a robust growth cycle. When iron status improves, the response is gradual but meaningful. Shedding typically decreases first as follicles stabilize. Then, over several months, new growth emerges with improved diameter and strength. This timeline reflects the biology of hair cycles rather than delayed effectiveness. Hair follicles need time to rebuild confidence in resource availability before committing to sustained growth. Iron also supports scalp circulation indirectly by maintaining healthy red blood cell function. Improved oxygenation enhances nutrient delivery and waste removal at the follicle level. This creates an internal environment where hair can grow efficiently rather than struggle for survival. The scalp becomes less reactive and hair shafts become more resilient. It's important to recognize that hair loss after 60 is rarely a single nutrient problem. Iron interacts with protein intake, B vitamins, copper, and vitamin C. Vitamin C, in particular, enhances iron absorption and utilization. Without adequate vitamin C, iron support becomes less effective. This interconnectedness explains why isolated supplementation sometimes fails and why a systems-based approach produces better outcomes. Hair follicles are remarkably adaptive. They don't shut down permanently without reason. When iron availability improves and oxygen delivery stabilizes, follicles that were producing weak hair can regain strength. The change may not be dramatic at first glance, but over time, fullness returns in a way that feels organic rather than forced. For women over 60, hair thinning is often interpreted as an irreversible sign of aging. In many cases, it is a sign of long-standing resource limitation. Iron sits at the center of that equation because it determines whether hair follicles receive the oxygen and energy they need to justify growth. Restore that balance, and the follicle responds not because it's being pushed, but because it finally has permission to thrive again. When all of these pieces are viewed together, a clearer picture of hair thinning after 60 begins to emerge. Hair does not decline simply because of age. It declines because the internal environment that once supported it has slowly changed. Over time, the body becomes more selective about where it sends nutrients, oxygen, and energy. Hair follicles, which are not essential for survival, are often the first to experience the consequences of this shift. What looks like inevitable aging is often a long-standing imbalance that has gone unrecognized. The most important principle to understand is that hair responds to signals, not force. No supplement can command hair to grow if the body perceives scarcity. When nutrients are low, absorption is weak, circulation is compromised, or inflammation is present, the body makes protective decisions. It diverts resources toward vital organs and reduces investment in hair. This process is subtle, gradual, and cumulative, which is why many women are surprised by how much volume they've lost over a decade rather than all at once. Another critical factor is consistency. Hair growth operates on a long biological timeline. Follicles move through cycles that span months, not days or weeks. When the internal environment improves, follicles do not immediately produce thick hair. They first stabilize, shedding slows, texture changes, breakage reduces. Only after these early adjustments does visible density begin to improve. This sequence is often misunderstood, leading women to abandon supportive strategies too early, just before meaningful changes would have appeared. There is also the issue of misdirected effort. Many women focus exclusively on topical products, shampoos, oils, and scalp treatments. While scalp care has value, it cannot override internal deficiencies. Hair is grown from within the follicle, supplied by blood, nutrients, and cellular energy. External treatments may improve shine or manageability, but they cannot compensate for inadequate oxygen delivery, protein availability, or micronutrient support. When internal conditions are corrected, topical care becomes supportive rather than compensatory. Stress plays an underappreciated role in this entire process. Chronic stress alters hormone signaling, depletes nutrients, and shifts blood flow away from the scalp. Even low-grade stress, sustained over years, can push hair follicles into shorter growth cycles. Many women underestimate how much stress their nervous system has carried over time. Supporting the body nutritionally helps buffer this stress response and reduces the tendency for hair to be sacrificed during periods of physiological strain. Hormonal changes after 60 further influence how hair responds. Estrogen, thyroid hormones, and insulin sensitivity all affect follicle behavior. These hormones do not operate independently. They interact with nutrient status. When nutrients are insufficient, hormonal signals become distorted. Hair follicles may receive mixed messages, leading to inconsistent growth. Restoring nutritional foundations helps normalize these signals, allowing follicles to respond appropriately rather than erratically. Another overlooked element is patience paired with observation. Hair gives feedback, but it speaks slowly. Reduced shedding, improved texture, and stronger regrowth are messages that internal conditions are improving. These signs often appear before visible fullness returns. Recognizing and valuing these early indicators helps maintain consistency and confidence in the process. Hair recovery is not dramatic, it is progressive and cumulative. It is also important to release the idea that hair must return to how it looked at 30 to be considered healthy. The goal is not reversal of time, but restoration of function. Healthy hair at 60 may look different, but it can still be strong, resilient, and full relative to what the body is capable of now. When expectations align with biology, progress becomes more satisfying and sustainable. One of the most empowering realizations for women is understanding that hair follicles are rarely dead. In most cases, they are under-supported. Dormant follicles can remain inactive for years, waiting for conditions to improve. When oxygen delivery increases, nutrient availability stabilizes, inflammation decreases, and hormonal signaling becomes clearer, these follicles can re-enter productive cycles. This is not speculation, it is how tissue biology works. The body is remarkably responsive when given the right inputs. It constantly reassesses where to allocate resources. When it senses abundance and stability, it becomes willing to invest in hair again. This shift does not happen because of a single supplement or strategy, but because the overall message to the body has changed. The message moves from scarcity to sufficiency, from protection to regeneration. Hair thinning after 60 often carries an emotional weight that goes beyond appearance. It can affect confidence, identity, and how a woman feels about aging. Understanding that hair loss is not a personal failure or an unavoidable destiny can be deeply relieving. It reframes the situation from one of loss to one of restoration. The body is not working against you. It is responding logically to its environment. When the internal environment improves, hair becomes a visible reflection of that change. It grows with more strength, better texture, and improved density over time. This process is quiet, steady, and rooted in biology rather than hype. Supporting the body correctly allows hair to do what it was always designed to do, grow when conditions